Home Secretary Diane Abbott has accused the Tories of using the row as a distraction from Brexit.
There are many other more important things to my constituents that people should be talking about rather than this he said, she said row.
The MP for Peterborough faces a possible jail sentence after being found guilty of lying to police. A Labour suspended former whip Fiona Onasanya, who colluded with her brother to avoid a speeding charge. The 35-year-old solicitor, elected just last June, has been convicted of perverting the course of justice in a retrial at the Old Bailey. A woman's been jailed for 3 years for making dozens of fake insurance claims, including over the Grenfell Tower fire, Manchester Arena bombing and Borough Market attack. 44-year-old Ruxana Ashraf from Edinburgh tried to get nearly £180,000 over a 5-year period. A man's being questioned after 4 people were stabbed at 2 GP surgeries in East London. He's been held on suspicion of GBH after the attacks in Tower Hamlets this morning. It's not being treated as terror-related. Uber has lost a High Court challenge against classifying its drivers as workers. The judgment could put the minicab app's business model at risk, effectively forcing it to offer protections, including the minimum wage and holiday pay. The company has got permission, though, to take the case now to the Supreme Court. The LBC Markets report, the FTSE 100, that's ended the day up 64 points at 67.65. The pound buys $1.26 and €1.11. LBC weather, clear to start tonight, but turning cloudy with some rain around later for most, a low of 7. Tomorrow, early frost in northern Scotland will be followed by sunshine and showers across the UK with a high of 11 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, it's been a long time in coming because again and again the Conservatives promise that election after election they're going to deal with the net migration figures. And, of course, in 2010, in their election manifesto, they pledged to bring the numbers down to tens of thousands. What happened? Nothing. And then in 2015, they pledged to bring the numbers down to tens of thousands. What happened? Nothing. And in 2017, they pledged to bring down the numbers to tens of thousands. What happened? Nothing. The latest net migration figures show an annual increase of 273,000 every year, which is almost exactly 10 times what the figure was from the late 1940s until about the year 2000. But the white paper was released today by Sajid Javid, and there was a debate in the House of Commons about it. So, in some ways, I'm pleased. At last, we are actually talking about it rather than just making false promises to the electorate every time they go to the polls. So let's hear the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, in the House of Commons, releasing the white paper today.
The future system is about making sure immigration works in the best interests of the UK. We are absolutely not closing our doors. We are simply making sure that we have control over who comes through them. Ensuring, as we committed to do in our manifesto, that we are able to bring annual net migration down to more sustainable levels.
So bringing it down to more sustainable levels, he kind of has walked away from the tens of thousands pledge that was in the manifesto, though Theresa May still seems to think that's the number that counts. And responding for the Labour Party was the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Diane Abbott.
Brexit offers, if it offers nothing else, the chance to put in place an efficient, no one that deals with the Home Office nowadays can say that it's universally efficient, an efficient, a fair and a non-discriminatory immigration system which meets the needs of the society. We should seize that opportunity. I believe that this white paper statement falls far short of that.
So criticism from Diane Abbott, but there is one point in this that she talked about, and indeed that Sajid Javid talked about, that I do think is very important, and that is the idea that we deal post-Brexit with immigration on a non-discriminatory basis. And that means we don't favour anybody from the European Union opposed to people who come from the rest of the world. And I've argued for that for year after year after year. So on the face of it, you might think I'm pretty happy with what's been set out today. However, it isn't really as straightforward as that, because whilst there's an aspiration that skilled migrants coming to Britain should meet a threshold of earning about £30,000 a year or more, and that's the move towards more skilled based migration. I'm afraid that what this white paper sets out is that until at least 2025, low-skilled migrants will be able to come to the United Kingdom for up to a year, and that will actually mean they can come not just from the European Union, but from the rest of the world. So basically what he's really saying is this. He's saying that an unlimited number of low-skilled workers from across the world will be able to come for up to a year. But imagine if they stayed for over a year. By what means could we actually enforce it? And can you imagine the outcry if we were deporting people who'd been here for 13 months without telling us that they intended to? So actually, I think the truth of it is, with what Sajid Javid has laid out here, that if this is implemented, we are likely, for the next few years, to see the numbers go up and not go down. And I also note that in terms of their definition of what a high-skilled worker is, yeah, there's the number of 30,000, but in terms of qualifications and skills, they've actually lowered that threshold. So here they are saying they're responding to public opinion, but in reality, they're not. And public opinion matters here, because overwhelmingly the British people want to see stricter controls on migration. They want the numbers coming to be lower. They manifest that in many ways in the vote during that referendum campaign, because actually large numbers of people coming have driven down wages, made it more difficult to get GP appointments, made it much harder for young people to get on the housing ladder, and a population that's increased by 6.5 million since 2001 has, I would argue, in many ways led to a deterioration in terms of our quality of life. We are in many parts a very overcrowded island. So that's what I think. I don't believe a word of it. Tell me, when Javid says he's bringing net migration down after Brexit, do you believe him? And if you think, Nigel, you're being too cynical, they've turned a page. Call 0345 6060 973, or maybe like me, you share the cynicism that we hear this over and over, but they haven't got the will to actually deliver it. Then text to 84850. And do you think there should be a cap of any kind at all? Should they be aiming at tens of thousands, or is this vague term sustainable? Good enough. Tweet, please, using the hashtag Farage and LBC, at LBC, and of course Facebookers, you can comment there too. I'm going to go to Christine in Shepherd's Bush and ask her, did she believe what the Home Secretary said today?
Oh, Nigel, absolutely not. This was just the usual platitudes we've been hearing from at least the Tories pay lip service to the idea of reducing immigration. Labour, their policy is just really, anybody who wants to come should come. But getting back to those who are actually in power, the fact is, while immigration from Europe has slightly decreased in the last year, not to the extent that the remainders would like you to believe, but it has. But at the same time, immigration from the rest of the world has gone up. Mm-hmm. So
yes, it has.
Why has he not dealt? Why they are able to deal with the rest of the world, haven't they? They've been able to do that. They make no attempts to stop that. And Nigel, I only have to look around my local area. In the last 10 years, there's been a threefold increase in immigration from particularly East and North Africa. Mm-hmm. These are low-skilled, mostly uneducated people. Okay, the claim is they're escaping, wars, blah, blah, blah. But that really is true of most of the rest of the world.
Well, Christine, you raise an important point. We're discussing immigration, but of course you're talking about who is and who is not a genuine refugee.
Fair enough, Nigel. Yeah. I won't go into that, but I'm saying the fact is that the rest of the world, they could have put a halt to some of that. They made absolutely no attempt to do so.
And who failed, Christine? Christine, who was in charge? Who was in charge of all of this? Who was the longest serving Home Secretary for 150 years? Who was it?
Could it be Theresa May?
Oh, funny that, isn't it? Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, and I think Savvy Javid, he's got an eye now on the top job. You know, I think, you know, so he needs to play his part in, you know, that he thinks will get him score some brownie points. But it's not working any longer, Nigel. We simply do not believe them. They have no genuine desire to reduce numbers.
So marks out of 10, Christine, for Sajid Javid's performance today.
0.
OK, very good. Thank you, Christine. Great to hear from you. Have a great Christmas. Jake in Derby is a new caller to the show. Jake, good evening to you.
Good evening, Nigel. I think I don't believe Sajid Javid, and I don't believe you. I think for the fact of the matter is that we will always have immigration to this country. That's a given.
Yes.
If you like it or not, we will always have immigration. Now, I'm against immigration per se. Why? 2 things. One, you talked about the skilled labour and unskilled labour, yeah? Mm-hmm. When we talk about skilled labour, right, and non-skilled labour, we're actually stealing other people's workforces from other people's countries that should be left in those countries of origin. So that's one thing that I'm concerned about. That's why I'm against immigration.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Right, and 2, the second reason I'm against it, the reason why I'm against immigration as well is because for those that have been born and bred here are lacking opportunities that others have seized upon, who are not born and bred here. Right? So, in essence, what the immigration has done, it's actually allowed others who are not born and bred here to have a fast track to people like myself who are born and bred here. And I don't think that's fair. And that's causing some of the tensions that I think the last call alluded to.
Well, Jake, I think this. I mean, look, I think in many ways your first point's a very important one. You know, what are we doing? Taking nurses and doctors from African countries that need them very much. And why aren't we? Why isn't post-Brexit Britain, why isn't the government announcing we're going to invest in the future of people in our country? We're going to make sure. We're going to make sure there's enough engineers, there's enough nurses. And that point, I think, is very, very important. But when But Jake, let me just come back to you and ask you one question. Mm-hmm. What levels of immigration do you think would be acceptable in our country?
Right, like I said, I'm against immigration, period. But because of the aging population.
But we're living, Jake, in a global economy. I mean, people do move. You know, people do genuinely move back and forth. For good reasons.
But immigration has its ends and meets. Like I said, I'm against immigration because of those 2 things I've just mentioned out here. So we should have the right to educate our own people who are born and bred in this country to do those jobs that are excess in this society. Why should we allow other people from outside, the low skilled or semi-skilled or whatever, right, to come into this country and take jobs that people like myself are quite capable of doing?
Jake, I think on balance, a majority of people would agree with your direction of travel on this, but we have to accept there will be immigration. But if it's 40 or 50,000 a year, maybe we can live with that. If it's 300,000 a year, that's an awful lot of new roads and hospitals we have to build. Jake, thank you very much indeed. Gail says, this country can't even house and treat its own people. 2025 is way too far before we get full control. But that's what you get with the Conservatives. You get it with immigration. You get it with Brexit. You get these promises we're taking back control. Then you look at the timelines and you realise all they ever do is they keep on kicking the can down the road and asking us to vote for them at every single election. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It is now 6:15 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Theresa May says the government remains committed to getting net migration down to the tens of thousands, while Nicola Sturgeon called the government's white paper on post-Brexit immigration an act of vandalism on the Scottish economy and public services. Jeremy Corbyn is continuing to face calls for an apology after he appeared to call Theresa May a stupid woman in the Commons. The Labour MP for Peterborough, Fiona Onasanya, faces a possible jail sentence after being found guilty of lying to police to avoid a speeding charge. LBC weather clear to start tonight, but turning cloudy with some showers around later, a low of 7 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. 2 lanes are closed on the M25 clockwise at the QE2 bridge where a lorry's broken down, and there are delays from junction 29 at the A127. Also on the M25, there are delays clockwise from junction 23 at South Mims to 24 at Porters Bar. A car's broken down. And also on the M25 clockwise, a car's broken down at junction 22 at London Coney. So that's also very busy on the approach. In Harold Wood, only 1 lane's open on the A127 eastbound because of an accident. There are delays back to Gallows Corner, and Arsenal are taking on Tottenham at the Emirates Stadium. It's starting to look very busy now in the area.
LBC.
My name's Samantha. I'd been through child abuse and domestic violence. I'd lost my mum, my sister, my son. I thought my life would never change. Then I came to Crisis at Christmas. There are doctors, clothing, food and people to listen to you and give advice. Now, with support from Crisis, I'm in full-time work, I've got a flat. My life has changed so much, I'll always be grateful. Please reserve a place for just £28.18p. Go to crisis.org.uk. Help someone take the first step out of homelessness this Christmas.
Jeremy upgraded Christmas with the deluxe fresh British broadland free-range turkey, available at Lidl from December 19th at just $6.29 a kilo. He also upgraded Christmas by building a roaring log fire in the middle of his living room. Make Christmas a little special. Subject to availability, selected stores, excludes NI.
OK, keys, handbag, and off to work I go.
You're not going anywhere, Jane.
What? Who are you?
I'm your sore throat.
And I'm your dry cough. 2 of you?
Yes, I'm awful. I'm not awful.
Shut up, throat.
Nobody likes a cough.
Nobody likes a sore throat.
Stop, please stop.
Relieve the nightmare cough with dual-action Lemsip Cough for dry cough and sore throat oral solution. Lemsip Cough, there for you.
Only you.
Always read the label.
If you're driving home for Christmas, at QuickFit, we want you to get there safely. Come and see us for a free winter safety check, and we'll look over your tyres, battery, lights and more to make sure your car is safe on the road this winter. Book online or head down to your local QuickFit today and drive away happy, whatever the weather.
This Christmas, Branston is the difference between a cheese board and a cheese board. Any crumbly cracker will do, and a thick wedge of creamy cheddar is perfectly fine. But the secret to unlocking its full flavour potential is that sweet pillow of Branston chutney. Caramelised onion, orchard fruit or Mediterranean tomato. Please the cheese this Christmas with Branston chutney. Go on, get yours before it's too late. Bring out the Branston.
This is the sound of Claire's spending spree at the Bullring Shopping Centre, Birmingham. Only a beep away from a Holiday Inn hotel. What are you doing this weekend? It all begins at holidayinn.com.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
So the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, lays out today in a government white paper the future plans for immigration into this country. And despite us being told for months it was going to become skills-based, non-discriminatory, it'll be a good thing, what we actually see is the biggest loophole you've ever seen in your life, which means that low-skilled migrants can continue to come freely to the United Kingdom up until 2025, provided they're only coming for 12 months, and that won't apply in post-Brexit Britain just to people from the European Union. It'll apply to the whole world. So actually what's going to happen is the net numbers coming to Britain will almost certainly go up and not go down. And this is a complete democratic failure because overwhelmingly people in this country want to see the numbers reduced. I'm actually shocked in many ways by what he's put before the House of Commons today. Now I get here by text, what's wrong with migrants? They contribute to the UK. The richest man in the UK is Indian. He has built businesses here and paid tax. The argument, whoever you are, we're not against migrants. We're not saying pull up the drawbridge at Dover. We're not saying no one should come. What we're saying is we should do this on a controlled, sensible basis, and that what happened from the late 1940s until a couple of years after Mr. Blair came to power was we had net migration over those years running at between 30 and 50,000 a year. That was sustainable. It worked. People integrated. Right now, that isn't happening. So tell me, when Javid says he's charted a new way forwards, that after 2025 we'll be completely in control of everything. Do you believe him? Because I'm sorry, I don't. Tell you what, though, there's one group of people here going to be very, very happy indeed today. If you're a major employer, employing thousands of people, listening to this show, you should be cracking open the bubbly, because you're now going to have a pool you can employ from, an unlimited pool, not just from Europe, but from the whole world. That should keep wages nice and low, shouldn't it? Andrew is calling from Halifax. Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, did you believe him?
No, of course I don't. And I think any government that can let in 250,000 migrants from outside the EU when it has full control over our borders pertaining to those people has absolutely no intention of getting immigration down either now or in the future.
And at what point, Andrew, do they pay a price for this? I suppose, because if you feel upset by... And one of the previous callers said, well, at least the Conservatives pay lip service to immigration. But in my view, Andrew, that's even worse, because it means they just lie to us at every election.
Well, it is, and it was interesting that you asked a previous caller what were acceptable levels of migration.
Yeah.
Well, there were a few figures here. In 1985, there was net migration of 58,000. In 89, it was 44,000, and in 1996, it was 55,000. It didn't actually rise above 100,000 until, I suppose you can guess, till Mr. Blair came to power, and it's continued to skyrocket ever since. And I would go further. I would say that both Blair and this government have made a calculated determination to turn migration into something that isn't economic-based, but is an actual deliberate policy of population replacement.
And do you think it sort of perhaps benefits them in terms of voters, because people become naturalised and become UK voters?
Well, I think I don't think it benefits the Conservative Party. I think migration benefits the Conservatives insofar that it keeps wages down. I think with Labour it provides a rich pool of future Labour voters. And I mean, I lived in London until 1993. In the 1992 general election, 48 out of the 89 seats in London were Conservative, and London is now solidly a Labour city. What's driven that change? Immigration.
I don't disagree with that, Andrew, one little bit. And Tony Blair, of course, himself did say he wanted to rub the noses of the right in diversity. And anybody that dares criticise the diversity agenda is effectively then banished from public life. Andrew, you make a very fair point. Thank you. If you think Andrew's wrong, if you think I'm wrong, if you actually think that huge net migration since the 1990s has not benefited the Labour Party, then tell me why that is on 03456060973, because I'm certain of it. Stephen is calling from Chester. Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening, Nigel. You're not going to like what I'm about to say.
All right, I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
I disagree with your last caller.
Okay.
And I think simple economics and simple history tells you the baby boomer generation is now in retirement, and they would have been starting around the time Tony Blair came into power, and during his time starting to get to an age of retirement coming in. He was fully aware, or at least it would be clear, that someone had to pay these pensions, and that is the reason we need immigration. That's not the reason I called up, by the way. That's not.
Well, no. Listen, Stephen, I take the point, although I'm going to counter that by saying two things to you. Firstly, an awful lot of people are now not retiring early. They're working on into their middle late 70s if they're physically able to do so. And secondly, isn't the problem with that theory that you have to bring in young people because of an ageing population, that in turn those young migrants become old too? So if you carry on with the logic of that, your population goes to 70 million, 75 million, 80 million. You know, I don't think that's the answer, Stephen.
No, but I'm afraid that parliaments generally last under 5 years, so it's short-term thinking under parliaments to essentially see what they can get done. The reason I called, I'm going to be a little bit bland at the start and hidden, but if I told you there was 50,000 jobs in the UK at the moment, paying over £40,000 a job in one sector, and British people don't want to do them jobs, would you be surprised?
Is that because they lack sufficient skills to do those jobs?
No. Yes, and the current government have an issue with it as well, and I can elaborate on that. But the haulage industry currently lacks 50,000 drivers. Now, we get a lot of our drivers from Eastern Europe.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure many of them, Stephen. I'm sure most of them are very, very good too.
Yes, no, they are. But the British drivers are equally as good. But the big problem is, so the apprenticeship scheme that the government have, where they're encouraging people into apprenticeships, you can't actually use that to train drivers, and drivers aren't considered a skilled workforce at the moment. They're not considered skilled. So your big issue is, if we can't get British people into them jobs, through whether that be mismanagement at government level or whatever, we're going to have serious issues coming very soon. And by very soon, we're seeing it already. We're already seeing it in the industry, and people will start to see it more and more whenever they go into the shops and the products aren't there that they want to buy.
Well, Stephen, Stephen, I take your argument to reinforce what I said 25 minutes ago, which is that I think the point about Brexit, the point about this white paper, the point about having a proper debate on immigration, and it's about time we did, frankly, because all we got for a decade was anybody that raised this subject just got abuse shouted at them, isn't the whole point. That the big change that's needed is we need a government that invests in our young people, invests in the future of this country, and trains people to be HGV drivers, nurses, engineers, accountants, or whatever else it is that we need.
Look at Germany.
Yeah, where they take trades and skills seriously. Absolutely. There are far fewer young Germans doing social sciences than we are. Stephen, you made two very powerful points. Thank you. Going to move on to Matthew, who is a new caller from the New Forest. Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
I'd like to... are you familiar with the demographic transitional graph?
Yeah, go on.
Basically, we're in stage 4 of development at the moment, and that means our population is still naturally growing. But as we enter stage 5, like countries like Japan, basically the population starts to decrease naturally. And in Japan, you're seeing basically you've got such an old population that the young isn't able to support it. So as Britain enters that, we're going to have this baby boom generation who are relying on services like the NHS with a much smaller population of young people supporting them.
Matthew, I understand the point, but let me just say this to you. The UK population has gone up since 2001 by 6.5 million people, which has fundamentally changed the quality of life for many, many other millions. 82% of that increase is directly as a result of immigration. Do you think that's a reasonable number?
Well, if you look at it, those immigrants also pay tax and everything, don't they?
Well, that's a slightly separate argument. That's the economic argument, and we can argue that round if you like, but I would... I was told, 3 or 4 years ago, did a big interview with Nick Robinson, and he said, but, immigration at current levels means that the economy will grow at 0.1% for the next 30 years. And I said, but some things matter more than money. There is something called society. There is something about the cohesion of the way we live. There is something about how long it takes us to drive the kids to the school or get to work every day. There is something called quality of life, which actually, I believe, Matthew, has been damaged over the last 2 decades by this massive rise in the population.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see these countries where they've got loads of immigrants, like the UAE. In Dubai, 75% of the population wasn't born there. And their quality of life is pretty high.
But you're dealing there with a developed country that's developed from a desert and elsewhere. Here we're dealing with very settled patterns of population. Matthew, on balance, do you think Sajid Javid's done a good job today?
Well, if he's letting skilled people in who are going to, provide doctors for the NHS, then yes. But if it's going to backfire and let migrants who, aren't trained and can't contribute, then that's where it goes back.
Well, that's where it's got. Yeah, well, that's where it's gone wrong. Matthew, thank you very much indeed for your call and your points. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It is now 6:30 and time for the news with with Lisa Aziz.
Theresa May says she's still committed to bringing annual net migration down to the tens of thousands. It's after the Home Secretary Sajid Javid refused to repeat the Tory manifesto promise in the Commons as he set out plans for post-Brexit immigration policy. The MP for Peterborough faces a possible jail sentence after being found guilty of lying to police. Labour has suspended former Whip Fiona Onasanya, who colluded with her brother to avoid a speeding charge in Cambridgeshire last year. The head of Scotland Yard says more than 900 people have been arrested under stop and search policy for carrying weapons since April. Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick says tackling violent crime is a massive challenge and the force will continue to prioritise it in 2019. LBC weather, further heavy showers affecting most areas at first through this evening, a low of 7 degrees.
This is LBC.
Hi there, I'm Jill from Network Rail, with some important news if you're travelling over Christmas and New Year. As part of ongoing work to improve the railways, we're carrying out essential rail upgrades across the UK from Sunday the 23rd of December to Tuesday the 1st of January. This means some services will change and some won't be running. To keep your plans on track, make sure to check before you travel at nationalrail.co.uk/Christmas or contact your local train company.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
As the owner of a sports coaching company, I always need one foot in the office, the other on the training pitch, plus an eye on the ball.
Vodafone help everyone at coaching company LLS stay connected so they never miss a call, wherever they're working. By joining up their landline and mobile with our OneNet Business solution. Search Vodafone Business Solutions to discover how we're so much more than mobile. Vodafone, the future is exciting. Ready? Subject to area availability, minimum terms apply. Details at vodafone.co.uk Business Solutions.
It's Christmas dinner, and they're off. Nan's out the chair, racing for pigs in blankets. Dad makes a beeline for the spuds. Oh no, heartburn has struck. Dad's down, he's suffering. They're pinching things off his plate. Savage, hold on, he's got Gaviscon. And yes, he's trying the turkey. He's back in the game. Don't miss out on Christmas dinner. Nothing gets to work faster than the nation's favourite heartburn and indigestion brand. Gaviscon Double Action. Based on sales data, always read the label.
Working at a 24-hour BP, you see some pretty strange things. Well, last Sunday night, this guy comes in to fill up his car. He sees our buy one, get one free on Coke and Doritos. Buys 2 Cokes and all the Doritos. Took him 2 trips to his car. Must have been having a snack attack.
With great deals on Coke, Doritos and batteries, plus 10p off per litre when you spend £20 in store, it's surprising what you'll find at BP M&S this Christmas. Subject to availability while stocks last. Offer ends 3rd of January 2019. Participating service stations only. Terms and conditions apply. See bp.com for details.
Is Donald Trump a dangerous provocateur or a great entrepreneur? Does the Me Too movement empower women or undermine them? Does the country need a people's vote, or have we already had one? With independent opinions from the best British journalists, read a magazine that makes you think. The Spectator. Open for debate. Try a month free at spectator.co.uk. Credit card required. Future subscription costs apply unless cancelled 7 days before end of trial.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
I don't believe the Home Secretary Sajid Javid is serious at all about bringing the numbers of net migration in this country down. In fact, his white paper and proposals today, I think, for the next 7 or 8 years, are more likely to see numbers go up. I think that's wrong. I think we do need to reduce numbers. I think actually democratically the country really wants it. Tell me I'm right, tell me I'm wrong. 0345 6060 973. And quite a row in the House of Commons today. Theresa May, during Prime Minister's questions, was having a real old go at Corbyn in sort of Christmas pantomime style. And when she sat down, Corbyn muttered something. Now, it wasn't audible, but what you can see very clearly is that the first word is stupid. What you can't see quite so clearly is what the second word was. Now, it looked to me like he said stupid woman, but others in the Labour Party say, no, that's not what he was saying. He was saying stupid people. This led to a chorus of those on the Conservative benches demanding that Jeremy Corbyn apologise, and he got up and said, he told MPs, no, I said stupid people, and, quote, I'm opposed to the use of sexist and misogynistic language in any form. Now, I wonder if he'd said stupid man, whether he'd have been called sexist for doing that. I think it's a row about nothing. I have to tell you that I have muttered under my breath things probably far ruder than that when I've been attacked by Mr Verhofstadt or Mr Juncker in the European Parliament. I really do. My view, it's a row about nothing. See what you think. Go to lbc.co.uk, see the clip, see Mrs May having a go, see what Corbyn did, see if you think it's something that should become a major political issue. I personally don't. If you feel strongly I've got that wrong, then please text in to 84850. I'll read out what you've got to say between now and the end of the programme. Let's get back to the Home Secretary. Let's get back to the immigration white paper and this really rather shocking idea that unlimited numbers of unskilled people can come, not just from the EU, but from all over the world between now and 2025, provided they're only staying for 12 months. But how on earth would you even be able to enforce that? I'm not happy. Sarah in Milton Keynes is the next caller. Good evening, Sarah.
Good evening.
So,
Hello.
What did you make of it?
No, I think it'll probably be just lip service. I think it's the tax revenue. We'd still probably keep the numbers slightly less, maybe just to pay lip service. But how many did you say it increased since 2000? 6 million, was it?
6.5 million, the population increase since 2001.
Did you know, I've just Googled this, because I read up a long ago, the total population, give or take, of Indiana and Iowa combined would be that figure, give or take. So,
off the top of my head, Sarah, no, I didn't. But
no, I was just saying, because I googled it, because the reason I did that was because somebody read it once that one of those states, I ain't got the globe in front of me, but one of those states is about the same size as our country, or England at least. And I think that was the point, and we've obviously got quite. It's space more than anything for me. I'm really not bothered about people's. Wherever, and as long as they're peaceful people, and it's just space and
Sarah, it's roads, it's housing, it's all of those things. Roads.
And people, and with respect to any government people who get the train and whatever, you want to stick yourself on the M25 for a bit and drive around and sit.
Sarah, I've travelled this year. I've travelled all over the world. I've been to the West Coast, East Coast, the middle of America. I've been all around Australia, New Zealand. I've travelled across Europe. I've travelled hugely. And the one thing I really dread is the car journey up to Manchester and back in the day, because I know it's going to be 10 hours in the car. I know it's going to be an absolute nightmare. I know the M6 will be even worse than the M25 was in the morning. And getting around this country is no fun. But Sarah, how do they get away? How do the Conservatives get away with telling us they'll reduce the net number to tens of thousands at every election and then not delivering?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I think the thing is, it's about, for me, I can understand saying that people contribute, and I get that, but it's all relative. You need to bring other people in to help in the NHS. If you've got more people, it's simple as. And like what you say, I feel so sorry for... young people have been educated in this country who don't get an opportunity to go into, it's like a call to arms, really. I mean, my grandmother in the war, she didn't get a choice. They said, we need you, and we need you to be in the land army. So that's what she did. It wasn't like, I want to do this, I want to do that.
I think if we gave leadership, Sarah, if we gave leadership to our young people, if we explained to them we're investing in them because they're the future of our country, we're going to teach them trades and skills that will give them good jobs with good livings, I think they'd thank us for it for decades to come. Sarah, thank you for your call. On Corbyn, Jonathan says on Twitter, what's offensive about calling her a woman? She is a woman. Surely the offensive bit is the word stupid. Would there be such a fuss if he'd said stupid person? No, there wouldn't, which is why that's the Labour Party's defence. But equally, if he'd said stupid man, nobody would have said it was sexist. That is my view. Gareth in Liverpool says to me, back to our main subject, the £30,000 salary limit is madness. I'm an A-level teacher with a master's degree in education. According to this new white paper, I am unskilled. Cannot fathom this. Actually, if you've got a master's degree, Gareth, I think you would still qualify as being skilled. Chris says, I was stunned that the paper was delayed by a year. They shouldn't they have just copied the Australian system? I like the Home Secretary, but this is a shambles. It is a complete and utter shambles. He intends to do nothing, I promise you. Keith says, so the crucial question is, where is the party we can vote for to take back control of our country? Which is a very good point. Tom in Basingstoke says, Nigel, we have an overcrowded Britain, and some of these are illegal immigrants. It's time for mass deportations. Well, Tom, we would be within our rights to mass deport illegal immigrants, but what if we made mistakes? What if we got things wrong? As we did, of course, over Windrush, and that led to everybody thinking, well, you know, if we're going to deport people, we need to make sure they're the right ones. And if people were to come saying, I'm only going to be here for 12 months, what means would we have of enforcing they leave? We just, under our current system, wouldn't, in my view. I'm going to go down to Portsmouth and speak to John. John, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you?
I am well, but I'm annoyed with Sajid Javid. You know, this was a chance, a real opportunity to show the country that this government was serious with Brexit Britain, that we'd invest in the future of our own people.
Right. Well, I agree with you on that one, but I'll explain my situation. Yep. I currently live in a vehicle, so effectively I'm homeless. I'm not actually registered as homeless, so there's probably one of the 320,000 plus that I'm categorised as. I work. I am a truck driver, strangely enough. I drive 7.5-ton trucks, earning £9 an hour.
Yeah.
If I go and take my Class 1 HGV licence, it's going to cost me £3,000, okay, for an extra £1 an hour. The reason for that is we've got mass immigration into the UK, which means the wages stay low, which means the companies can pay low wages and have effectively slave labour. In turn, the house prices are going up, and people like me cannot afford to rent a property, because by the time you take into the account the high rent levels and the cost of the bills as well, that effectively doubles your rent. You just can't afford to do it on £9 an hour.
So you're earning what, about 35,000 a year, something like that?
Nowhere near.
Nowhere near. Well, how many hours a week? How many hours a week, John, are you working?
About 35.
About 35. Okay.
Yeah.
And would you be able to work more hours in that industry?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if I got my Class 1, I could potentially then I'll be doing long distance journeys rather than local work.
Yep.
And then it would increase to potentially 60 hours.
60. Well, that's what I thought, you see. That's what I thought. So
now the other thing about
I mean that would be £600 a week, John, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. So it'd be more money, but for a lot more hours. The other point I want to make is in other countries it's seen as a skilled job. And for example, in Canada, you can go and earn double that wage, so say 60,000 a year in 6 months.
Okay, so you're the second caller tonight to say that HGV drivers are not regarded as being skilled, and you really think they should be.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not companies are not training HGV drivers. They're crying out for them, but they refuse to train them. And on the wages they're paying, who can afford to go and get the course?
I think, John, and you're so...
22.
your circumstances are pretty horrid, but I think the truth is there are a lot of people in your position. I wish you well, John. I wish you luck. Thank you for coming on and sharing that. And John's point is that because there are too many people coming to Britain, it's forcing wages down compared to other countries that don't operate like this. Lots more comments on Corbyn coming in. Solomon says, I have no problem with him calling her a stupid woman. I do have a big problem with a politician blatantly lying, which he clearly did. Well, folks, make your own mind up. lbc.co.uk. What did Corbyn say? What did he mutter under his breath? Was it stupid people or was it stupid woman? I know what I think. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:45 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Theresa May says the government remains committed to getting net migration down to the tens of thousands, while Nicola Sturgeon's called the government's plans for post-Brexit immigration an act of vandalism on the Scottish economy and public services. Jeremy Corbyn is continuing to face demands for an apology after he appeared to call Theresa May a stupid woman in the Commons. The Labour MP for Peterborough, Fiona Onasanya, faces a possible jail sentence after being found guilty of lying to police to avoid a speeding charge. LBC weather clear to start tonight but turning cloudy with some showers later, a low of 7 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Long delays on the M25 clockwise onto the QE2 bridge because a lorry broke down earlier. All the lanes are now open, but it's still slow for about an hour from junction 29 at the A127. Also on the M25, very busy clockwise from junction 22 at London Coney to 23 at South Mims where a car's broken down, but it started to improve towards 24 at Potters Bar because the other car, which broke down earlier, has been recovered. In Harold Wood, there are delays on the A127 eastbound because of an accident. Arsenal taking on Tottenham at the Emirates Stadium. Kick-off is at 7:45, but very slow in the area, and Chelsea are facing Bournemouth at Stamford Bridge, which is also causing delays.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
On Cross Question tonight, 2 clever women, 2 clever men and a rather stupid presenter. Did Jeremy Corbyn call the Prime Minister a stupid woman? And does it even matter?
Ian Dale on LBC.
Some people like turkey for Christmas, others like something different. So at Tesco this week, whole leg of lamb is half price and whole counter salmon is half price too. Perfect if you like a change. However you do Christmas, everyone's welcome at Tesco. Max 2 per customer, selected stores while stocks last. Lamb ends 24th of December, salmon ends 31st of December.
It's only just launched, but the new Vauxhall Combo van has already delivered. For the heavy lifters, with its payload of up to a ton. For the fuel savers, with its highly efficient engines. And now, we're delighted to announce it's also delivered the coveted title of International Van of the Year 2019. New Combo. Carries British business. Vauxhall. British brand since 1903. Search Vauxhall Combo.
This is the sound of the Birch family kayaking down the River Dee, North Wales. Only a skimming stone's throw away from a Holiday Inn hotel. What are you doing this weekend? It all begins at holidayinn.com.
A tale of good and evil. A warrior queen and her aging father fighting the army of the dead on level 7. Oh, great. The internet? Really? Right now?
There's never a good time for an internet disaster. But with BT Plus, let us know and we'll send you an unlimited 4G mini hub straight away to get you back in the game. BT. Be there.
BT Plus. 80% UK availability.
Is Donald Trump a dangerous provocateur or a great entrepreneur? Does the Me Too movement empower women or undermine them? Does the country need a people's vote, or have we already had one? With independent opinions from the best British journalists, read a magazine that makes you think. The Spectator. Open for debate. Try a month free at spectator.co.uk. Credit card required. Future subscription costs apply unless cancelled 7 days before end of trial.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
In exactly 100 days from now, guess what? We're leaving the European Union at 11 p.m. on the evening of the 29th of March. 100 days to go. I've got everything crossed that it's actually going to happen. But it's not going to happen, in my view, under Mrs May's deal, because that wouldn't be good enough. No, I'm all for a WTO Brexit, because I don't see how, barring a very quick negotiation of a free trade deal, anything else can happen that still honours the vote of the referendum and the general election. But we will see. And I think that week, with the vote due to come to the House of Commons on May's deal on the 14th or there or thereabouts of January, we're headed for some pretty dramatic times. And today, in line with that, the Financial Times have announced their person of the year is George Soros, the man who probably is doing more internationally to try and stop Brexit than anybody else, which is a measure, I guess, of how polarised this debate is. Let's get back to Sajid Javid. Let's get back to his white paper on immigration, which I think is a complete and utter letdown that may well lead to larger numbers coming than smaller. But of course, as they do with everything, they promise they're taking back full control. Do you believe the Home Secretary? I'm going to ask Paul in Brighton, a new caller, that very question. Good evening, Paul.
Hello, Nigel. How are you? Been a follower of UKIP since it started. I had your stickers up in my business, the golf club.
Right. Okay.
So it's nice to speak to you.
Good to speak to you.
So yeah, I also appreciate that, I've sent a message to the BBC. Why is it they haven't got a single pro-Brexit presenter on its payroll? But there you go. LBC has scored there.
Well, LBC have a mixture of people. LBC have people from right across the political spectrum. And
But
I think
the BBC doesn't.
Well, I'm sure there are one or two who might be, but perhaps they're a bit scared.
I can't name one. If I was on Want to Be a Millionaire, I couldn't name one. I'd lose the money.
So, were you invigorated by the Home Secretary today? Do you believe him that by 2025 Go on.
No, I don't. In actual fact, my point is we should have an English deal, an Aussie deal, or whatever, Denmark deal, or Norway deal. We should have an English deal. That'll be our own unique deal, which is no deal, basically. But I think that, where else in the world if you get a job, you get citizenship, automatic citizenship? I don't think there is one. My son took 14 years to become a citizen of America, and he was a professional man, went there to get the job, worked there ever since.
Well, I think what happened, Paul, was we blurred the distinction, didn't we, between people coming on work permits and people coming to migrate. It all became one and the same thing. What would you like to see happen, Paul?
On the 29th of March.
You obviously want us to leave, but in terms of migration, do you think we should set a figure that we say there or thereabouts is the acceptable level of population increase every year?
No, I think we should have a call to job system where we got vacancies, they come in. If it's fruit picking, they come in for a season. If it's nursing, where it's more long term, they come in more permanently. I think it's as simple as that.
And should they, Paul, if they come for seasonal work or short-term work, should they bring their own health insurance? Should it be made clear that they will not be able to use, the state system here?
Well, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. I go to America and I have to have insurance, medical insurance. Otherwise, I'm left on the road.
And that's how the whole world works. That's how the whole world works. Paul, I thank you for your call and your support. I'm going to move on to Carol in Wandsworth, another new caller to the show. Good evening, Carol.
Hiya. I think you finally hit the nail on the head when you were talking about society being important over money.
Yes.
Now, the Japanese... Right, may I just also come to that caller, who I found extremely arrogant and irritating with his statistics about the baby boomers needing immigration because... they are retiring. Okay, let's just look at it this way. Here are some stats. Every country on this planet is going to need immigration. Is going to need immigrants and workers. Yeah, they're going to need workers because every country on this planet, even the poorest ones, unless they've been decimated by war or whatever, like poor Yemen, they are going to need immigrants because everyone's living better and longer. So the medical advancements we've made have helped everyone to live longer. So, the baby boomers have benefited from that because it was started during their generation. The next generation or this generation are now going to have the same thing. They're going to be living to probably 150. All of you out there listening, you're probably going to be
what a
living
thought!
to,
What a thought! Gosh,
I
tell you what, Carol, they better start saving for their pension now, hadn't they?
Yeah, well, no, if everyone gets migration, but the thing is about controlled. The word control. We have never had control here. Controlled migration. Okay. Now, you said about society. There is a thing called society, and without a society, who wants to continue living in a world where you don't know who's who from what, and then you've got to struggle with the language, you've got to struggle with their culture, you've got to struggle, all of these struggles, okay, are unfair to society. And what I think is, I think that the natives born in this country, I'm not 100% British, okay, but I actually feel sympathy for the natives of this country. You native Scots, Welsh, Irish, Scottish, the Scots, the English, and the Welsh.
Well, Carol, what we want is control, isn't it?
Of this country, your blood is in the soil of this country, okay. And now, if you let other people come in, you need them, but only for a certain period. Then they should be able to go back to their own countries and help to, look after their own countries. So
Carol, that point of view, that point of view is overwhelmingly held by most people. We are not against immigration or immigrants. We have been, of all the countries in Europe, the most tolerant, the most caring in terms of refugee status over centuries. We just want control. Carol from Wandsworth, you're absolutely right. We want control. John says to me, we need identity cards in this country. Do you agree? Well, I've never been for identity cards, but how on earth else would you enforce a 12-month period? I don't know. Let's go to Maidstone and speak to Peter, my last caller of the evening. Peter, hello. You're a new caller. Welcome.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
I'm all right. So, were you impressed with the Home Secretary today, or was it all...
Well, I've got to be honest, I didn't actually hear what he said, but I'm not impressed at all with anything this government's doing. I've always been a Conservative voter, traditionally, but I'm totally unimpressed with everything that this government has done. And as far as immigration is concerned, it's an absolute scandal. They keep talking about bringing it down, and it's never going to get anywhere. They keep talking about tens of thousands, changing the figures, this, that and the other. Nothing ever happens.
And they promise it.
It's a complete fabrication.
And they promise it, Peter, at election after election, and nothing gets delivered.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, a lot of it all goes back to Tony Blair back in the early 2000s, in the early part of his tenure, when he basically just opened the doors, flooded the country. And in doing so, he did it for one reason. It was to rub the right nose in diversity, but he did it to perpetuate the Labour vote and also to undermine the culture of the country.
But there certainly were some comments about changing our culture. But Peter, they tell us it's all been an economic benefit. So what are you moaning about?
I
think you've just laid it out already. Listen, Peter, thank you very much indeed for your call. Thank you, all of you, for your calls. Some strong opinions on both sides of that argument. Michelle says to me on Facebook, are we really leaving the European Union on March the 29th, 2019, Nigel? Are you sure? Do you promise us? I wish, Michelle, I could promise you.
Well, that was a rather timely drop of the line there, just right at the end of Nigel's programme. Well, let me tell you what is coming up